All right, guys, welcome to this week's Motivational Monday. And I'll tell you why I want this as a Motivational Monday. You should be ecstatic with where the market is right now. Literally, should be ecstatic with where it is historically, especially if and when you decide to learn and get really good at creative financing. The term's niche, okay? I've said since I was building homes in the 90s that I always like residential properties, and I like single family residential, generally speaking, especially when you're new, because regardless of interest rates, regardless of what's happening in the economy, all the noise from the media that's never going to stop, people are not going to stop looking for a place to live. People are not going to stop getting married and then getting their first home, and so on and so forth, right? Side note here, residential happens to be, when you look at sort of the pie chart of real estate, right, in around the world, trillions, United States in particular, the residential is the largest class. I don't know if some of you knew this, and this is going to lead up to why I think it's so awesome right now, right? All these pieces. It's one of the largest categories or asset classes. It's got like, I don't know, it's over 250 trillion. And to give you an example of, or a gauge for how big that is, agricultural land is second at like 35 trillion. Then it goes to commercial in general, I think it was over 30 trillion. I'm just giving you rough numbers so you don't get too caught up on the stats, just so you get a sense for how cool residential is. Now, I recently sold our commercial building where we housed all our companies in September of 23. If you were at the QLS Live event, I showed you that deal. I showed you the HUD statement. I showed you how that all went. We profited like $750,000. Side note, you're going to want to be at this year's QLS Live event. Okay, it's in Boston. Go to QLSlive.com. Nothing to do with the market update for our community. When you're watching this, you guys want to go ahead and get your free ticket as associates. Now, why did I bring up our building? Well, I didn't want that class anymore, right? The office space class is really gotten beat up. And again, as an aside, before I jump into why now is an awesome time for residential real estate and creative in general, we've seen, if you look at kind of what's happened here, it's so interesting. All these kind of, I always call it a perfect storm, all these things coming together. We have seen the highest interest rate hike in our history, right? And a lot of people with commercial space in apartment buildings, for those of you that are looking at those niches, or you think, oh, I got to graduate to apartments. So many people tell me that on podcasts. Well, a lot of them had variable rates. A lot of them got greedy and they took variable rates for cash flow and or just low rates, right? That are now coming up for renewal. And so many are defaulting. People just literally, large investors are walking away from buildings in cities and all kinds of horror stories. And another side note, that's why I prefer not to use banks. One of the family members asked me recently, hey, I want to get into apartments. I said, okay, but be careful, because you do have, when you're using a bank, you do have 5 or 10 year reviews for commercial loans. And I've watched my father and other people have those loans called over the last 30 years. So just be careful. It's why I like creative. When I bought our building, I bought it from an owner financing, fixed rate, no personal guarantee. That's better. And again, we're going to go over that at the QLS Live event big time. So if you're seeing this on YouTube, get yourself registered. For those of you watching this in the market update in our community, just get yourself to the event for sure. All right. I'll give you an example of when I say, yeah, these 5 and 10 year renewals are coming due, because it's an alarming rate. Like last I looked, and some of these numbers might be tweaked a little bit. In 2025, when we get to 2025, it's right around the corner. 1.5 trillion loans are going to mature. If the rates are still high, they're screwed, right? They're either going to walk away because they're not going to throw bad money up to good onto an asset, or bad money onto bad, good money onto bad, sorry, or they're just going to walk away from the thing. They just can't do it, okay? 2.5 trillion 3 years later are coming up for maturity, 2028. I'm just giving you like the stats. I pulled those out of Tony's book, actually. So is there opportunity there in those asset classes? Yeah. If you change the use of some of those properties, and you'll see some of that happening in big cities where literally millions of square feet are empty. I love the apartments in general because affordability and supply is causing constraints on buyers. So I do like apartments, but I just want to give you guys that as a preface, sorry, to what I'm about to hit you with. The biggest thing that annoys me is talking about residential now. The media still doesn't get it. I'm going to give you headlines to prove it. 2022 saw major prices peaking, right? So the media jumped on that and they started screaming, it's similar to 2008, and they couldn't be more wrong. I'm going to literally go over some headlines. Let me pull them up on my screen here so I can actually read them. Dates and headlines really quick. 2015, October, Housing today, a bubble larger than 2006. That was a headline. August of 2016, we're in a housing bubble. Headline. September of 2018, it's better to rent than to buy in today's housing market. 2019, July, the housing market is about to shift in a bad way for home buyers. Think about this, how stupid this sounds when you know what happened now in hindsight. December of 2019, next year will be a hard year in the housing market, especially in big cities. July of 21, housing boom is over as new home sales fall. Now, let me give you some my own little observations here. Between the first headline that I went over and the last headline that I went over, average prices went up from 300,000 to like 500-something thousand average prices. And buyers locked in historically awesome rates, right? You guys know that. Now, many saw also an enormous appreciation. Today, the media is screaming about prices, maybe even a crash, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because it drives their ratings. I think the stat is that they get 66% higher ratings when they do this crap. Just understand that where it's coming from. But the facts and the data between, say, I don't know, when I went through my crap from like 05 to 08 into 10, they're dramatically, what happened then is dramatically different than now, and quite exciting for you if you're in the creative financing niche, plain and simple. And if them being wrong all the time is not enough, I don't know what's not enough for you guys. Think about it. They're not, I said this at our recent summit event, they're not, the media and the naysayers are not certified by the Creative Financing Real Estate Association, which you can be if you go through our QLS course, right? You guys in the community are, you guys watching this outside the community need to get certified. Side note. And if the media and the naysayers were, they'd be secretly screaming for everyone to join creative real estate and they'd be heroes, right? This niche of creative allows you guys to pivot as the market pivots. And it's going to always pivot because there's one constant in real estate I say on all shows, and that's that it's constantly changing. Okay. By the way, we've had, I think, like 9 recessions, 9 or 10. I was reading in Tony's book since the 60s. Prices dropped one, the Great Recession. Prices in housing dropped in one of those. So again, the media just feeds on this crap, but it just doesn't add up. Let's compare 2008 and sort of the lead up to now, primarily with respect to what I said earlier about supply and demand and that the rentals might go up, because that really matters. I'll give you an example. I was telling Kim this the other day, my wife. 2004 and 5, builders went bonkers, right? Everybody knows that. The buyers eventually dwindled because they built so much inventory. Banks gave away money. I was part of it. I lived it. If you could fog a mirror, you got a loan. No doc loans, all that crap. I did it. I thought it was normal. And I took advantage of it. I thought it was an ATM machine. It wasn't. It was crap. And so it got me in trouble. Today, there are just under 1 million homes for sale. And 40% of those are under agreement, just to give you a sense. There's like 1 million homes that are for sale last I looked, and 40% of them are under agreement. That is the lowest inventory since tracking these stats in the 80s. The lowest. Like during the 2008, the dramatic 2008, there was like 4 million homes for sale. 4 million. Now we have 1 million and almost half of those are in agreement. Just do the math. I'm just giving you generic so people don't say, well, I Googled it and the new stat is this. I don't care. They are close to what I just said. And they generally, I hope, paint a picture for you. 2 things here that I want to get across. 1, it's dramatically different than 2008. Don't let the media tell you otherwise. They're dead wrong. 2, it's the best time in my 33 years to be in creative real estate. Now, the other thing that's dramatically different is that 2008 saw many homeowners over leveraged, right? We all know that too, because of the type of lending that I just said. Today, if you Google this, the stat I found was about the Americans have about 58% of equity in their properties. The average American who owns a home has about 58% of that in equity. Is that not cool? So if they've locked in low rates, number one, and they have huge equity, and in 08, it was all over leverage and 4 million homes and nothing available. What do you think's different? It's dramatically different. All you need to do now is understand how you insert yourself into that type of, those types of parameters, those metrics. In a creative real estate, you can do that. So let's just all decide to commit to getting really, really good at creative real estate. For those of you who watch this outside the community, again, go to qlslive.com. You're not going to want to miss the next event. If you're watching this on a Motivational Monday, if some of those metrics, not even all, didn't get you excited to be in creative real estate, I'm not sure what would. Reach out. I want to do a free call with you. If you're watching this on YouTube, go to smartrealestatecoach.com/Chris Pre-call. That's a call with me. That's not a sales team. That's not anything but a call with me so I can help you understand how much you can accomplish between now and the QLS Live event.